Let Century Management Solutions get you to your next medical appointment. They specialize in non-emergency medical transportation, connecting patients to care, safety, reliability, and on time. Their advanced technology platform seamlessly coordinates patients, healthcare providers, insurers, and transportation partners all in one powerful network. With over 200 trusted transportation providers, they deliver scalable solutions backed by real-time tracking and complete transparency. Go to SENTRYMS.com.
Excuse me! Taxi!
Come on, what are you doing? This is the 77 WABC minicast.
What the heck is going on in Albany? Well, nobody better to tell us than Melissa DeRosa. And she was there for, how many years, Melissa, were you there? 12 years?
Oh, God, too many years to count. Between the governor's office and the attorney general's office, it was like 15 years. But remember, John, I grew up in Albany because my father is a lobbyist up there. So I spent my formative years in that cesspool. So I am all too familiar with the ins and outs of it.
Give us the pulse of the situation because the budgets are going out of whack. There's a lot of people concerned that the governor is going to allow the mayor to run things in Albany.
Yeah, well, listen, John, the problem is that the budget situation is completely off the wheels. And generally speaking, when we were in office, Andrew Cuomo, really ruled with an iron fist on the budget. It had to be done by April 1st. There wasn't a deal on anything until there was a deal on everything. And that kept a certain order, and people knew what to expect. And he also understood the art of, the Assembly has to get this, the Senate has to get this, I want this, and sort of the horse trading. And what we've seen this year, which has been so bananas to me, like so just off the wall, was before the process even started, Hochul came out and said, I'm going to give, $1.5 billion in child care to Zoran Mamdani. And why she would have done that? I mean, on the one hand, I guess you can argue, she didn't want to hear from them, have a fight for the 3 months and just wanted to take the issue off the table. It's not really real. It's a fig leaf. There's not anything close to universal child care. That's all a bunch of nonsense. But, it gets him off her back. But it didn't get him off her back. He and his comrades continued to push this agenda of raising taxes, and she had already given away a bargaining chip. So then, you get to a couple of weeks ago, and it happens again. She comes out and she completely flip-flops on, I'm not going to raise any taxes, and now she's doing this, sort of fugazi pied-à-terre tax, which doesn't seem offensive to anyone because it's second homes. You don't live here. It's valued over $5 million. But when you read the fine print, really doesn't generate all that much revenue. It's like, between $320 and $380 million. They're talking about a $5.5 billion hole. It's really just about, class warfare and giving Zoran and the DSA another win over Hochul. And, you did that and you announced that preemptively. So now the budget still isn't done. She's still horse trading on other policy and fiscal issues. And the more time the budget stays open, the more time you allow for mischief to happen. So now you've got a situation where you've got, Zoran and his friends are continuing to push for more taxes. Now the upstaters want to have the pied-à-terre option up there. And, nobody is happy, and everyone is still creating this pressure environment to do things to generate more revenues. So the golden rule was always there's not a deal on anything until there's a deal on everything, and that rule was violated this time around, and you're seeing sort of the fallout of it, which is just that it's mayhem.
I think Rita is here with us. And Rita, you had another question for Melissa.
Yeah, Melissa, this is really stunning, this law that they're looking at passing in New York State. It's going to be the most extreme sanctuary city sort of anti-ICE policy, trying to even crack down on counties. What do you make of this?
And you've got to remember the history here, which is what makes it even more incredible, which is that when Kathy Hochul started out, she was a clerk up in the town of Hamburg, up in Erie County in the hinterlands. No offense to my friends in Erie County. But she, back then, Elliot Spitzer passed a law saying that, non-documented people can get driver's licenses. or did an executive order saying that. And she went out and said, if any non-documented person comes into my county or my town and tries to get a driver's license, I'm going to have them arrested. And when you think about who she was back then and now this law that they're talking about, it's like it sort of demonstrates why people don't trust politicians, because it really shows, how coreless people can be and sort of opportunistic and just being, putting your finger in the wind. But, I think that Democrats are making a mistake right now in general on ICE. I think, yes, there need to be reforms. I think, yes, there need to be guardrails. I think, yes, ICE should act like every other law enforcement agency in the country. I think that Minneapolis did a lot of damage to Trump's agenda and set them back. However, I think that in 2024, you also had a big referendum on the lack of border control under Biden and the fact that people did want an immigration system enforced. And they just wanted to be, criminals and people who actually should be, kicked out of the country and not Americans being shot in protests and, people who aren't violating the laws being pulled off the street and asked, where are your papers? But, in typical fashion, in an effort to appease the far fringe of the party, they go further and further and further in these one-party states like New York. And that's what you're seeing playing out here. And I just wonder if there's some high-profile crime involving someone here who's here undocumented in a couple of months, if Kathy Hochul and others are going to be regretful of acting in haste in this moment.
Melissa DeRosa, you know Albany better than anybody. Anything else you want to tell all New Yorkers on a Friday night?
No, look, I think that everyone needs to get real about the fact that the DSA more and more is running the state government.
And for those people who don't know what you're talking about, the DSA is the Democratic Socialist Party versus the Democratic Party.
Exactly. Thank you, John. It's the far fringe, except they're encroaching further and further and taking over things. And the Republicans who listen, I really implore you to push your leadership to get its act together, because the Republican Party is almost non-existent in New York right now. And when there isn't a strong Republican Party, the Democratic Party gets pulled by the fringe. And it's like playing tennis, right? You're only as good as who is ever on the other side of the net. And right now there's nobody on the other side of the net. So people have got to get more engaged. People have to have their voices heard. We need smart, independent, fair, and balanced people who are willing to raise their hand and run for office, because I think that one-party rule with the DSA, the Democratic Socialists, and the city sort of driving the agenda is not going to end up with New York in a good place.
Melissa DeRosa, thank you so much for coming on this Friday night, and we pray for the best for New York City and New York State. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you, guys. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
In this 25th anniversary year of September 11th, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation continues to honor America's heroes. Heroes like Fire Lieutenant Michael Wells, who was inspired by 9/11 to serve his community. After 14 dedicated years of service, he lost his battle with occupational cancer, leaving behind his wife, Katie, and their 3 children. Tunnel to Towers honored Lieutenant Wells by paying off the family's mortgage in recognition of his sacrifices. Donate $11 monthly and amplify your impact with a car or land donation. Go to T2T.org.